Welcome, everyone. It is episode 56 of 55 and 5. Ian Riccoboni, Cary Silkin. We're joined by our producer, AJ from Bisson Creative and Web Design. Cary, we're moving along. We've had some fun ones, some notable names. It's been a good run. We've had a couple of good weeks.
Yeah, they're all good. And we're getting to the halfway mark here.
Right. We're rapidly approaching 60 and a half, which will occur at some point in the middle of next week's episode.
Oh, maybe we go 60 and 3/4.
There you go. So for those who may be joining us for the very first time, Cary and I, during the pandemic, during the quarantine, we started collecting. I went heavy into these 1955 Parkhurst Wrestling cards. There's 121 cards. Essentially, my wife said, hey, you barely know who any of these guys are. So I was inspired to look them all up. And I quizzed Cary on who they are in hopes of Cary sharing some memories from his childhood of maybe possibly seeing them on television or reading about them in the magazines. And Cary, we have 5 minutes to do that because we talk a lot. So I limit it to 5-minute history lessons. Today, we have a Manitoba Sports Hall of Famer. That's your hint.
I'm in trouble already.
And in case Cary doesn't know, we have the safety net. I don't know much about a lot of these folks either. We have A-list Hall of Famers like Lou Thez, Buddy Rogers, etc. And we have folks like this who had really interesting careers that you might not know the name. So I'm going to show this to the fans at home. It is card 101 in the set. Cary, can you tell me a little bit about Steve Patrick?
Absolutely not.
Okay, that's fair.
Talk about a generic name.
Right.
Well, I am going to, with the approaching spring, I'm going to get a little diving board here so I could jump into the safety net.
Okay. Well, this might not take 5 minutes because he only wrestled 6 matches recorded on our good friends cagematch.net.
You know, on Last Stop Penn Station, we talk about all these rigged things. And
right.
Tickets. This is a rigged set.
Well, I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why he made it. Because he was a CFL player. So he was a dual sports star. At the time this card was produced, he was becoming an all-star in the CFL. He hadn't made it there yet, but he was clearly on the rise.
Which is Canadian Football League to those who might be wondering.
Right. He played for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers from 52 to 64. He was an all-star in 58 and 59. So he was on the upswing of his football career. He was discovered wrestling at the YMCA. So you could just go in and wrestle, which is not the first time we've heard that in these. So he's discovered. He was trained by Stu Hart. So good credentials there. And I think his post-wrestling career is way more interesting.
Well, let's hear about it.
Because he retires from football. He becomes an assemblyman in Manitoba. A member of the Liberal Party, which is also an interesting trend. A lot of these Canadian wrestlers go into politics on the Liberal side, which is unique, I think. He's also college educated, which is unique for the wrestlers, but we see it a lot with the Canadian wrestlers. Graduate of Manitoba's Teachers College and Success Community Business College. But perhaps the most interesting wrinkle is that he has 3 folks in his family who became NHL players.
Okay.
So James and Steve Patrick played in the NHL, his sons. And one of my current favorite players on the Philadelphia Flyers, Nolan Patrick, the 2nd overall pick in the 2017 draft, is in the NHL right now. So just an amazing family. He has a daughter-in-law that was an Olympian as well. So just the family tree loaded with athletes.
Well, so I'm going to just guess that Steve's no longer with us.
No, Steve, born in 32, passed away in 2014. Multi-sport star, though, and really revered in his community.
Well, very interesting. You know, I was just doing the math in my head real quick. Anybody's 55, you know, assuming they're 20 years old, they were born in 35. So anybody who's alive would have to be 85-ish.
Right.
So it's a possibility.
It's a possibility. We had one last week.
Right.
It's Sammy Berg, who, as far as we know, is the only living member. And interesting update on Sammy Berg, he has a great nephew in the WWE right now. Matt Martell, who wrestled in Chikara for a little bit, I believe, and is now in the WWE. He wrestles on 205 Live a lot.
I'll have to ask Spanky about him.
Yeah, so there you have it. A little update on Sammy Berg.
Very cool.
Who also starred in the Three Stooges movie, as you remember. So that's it today for Steve Patrick. It wasn't quite the 5 minutes, but I'll tell you what, it's a fun story. And I'm glad we learned a little bit about Steve today.
That was a good one. Thank you, Ian.
Yeah, thank you, Cary. And tomorrow, we have two athletes Cary's going to be very familiar with. One was a philosophy major at the University of Oregon, and the other was a 1948 silver medalist from the United States. But both were portrayed from Japan. That's your hint.
Okay.
So we will talk about those two gentlemen on the same card, probably my favorite card in the set, tomorrow, right here on 55 and 5. So for AJ, our producer from Bisson Creative and Web Design, for Cary, I'm Ian Riccaboni. We'll join you tomorrow night, 8 p.m., and every weeknight at 8 p.m. for 55 and 5.